This Film is Lit, the podcast where we finally settle the score on one simple question. Is the book really better than the movie? I'm Brian. I have a film degree, so I watch the movie, but don't read the book.
And I'm Katie. I have an English degree, so I do things the right way and read the book before we watch the movie.
Look, some of us are lazy, alright?
If by lazy you mean wrong.
Prepare to be wowed by our expertise and charm as we dissect all of your favorite film adaptations and decide whether the silver screen or the written word did it better. So turn it up, settle in, and get ready for spoilers, because guess what? This film is lit. Coming-of-age tale about a boy with a secret. It's Love, Simon, and this film is lit. Hello and welcome back to the 19th episode of This Film is Lit, the show where we talk about movies that are based on books. Today, talking about Love, Simon, which is currently out in theaters. Just came out a couple weeks ago. We're a little late on it, but hasn't been out for too long. Love, Simon, 2018 film, directed by Greg Berlanti, based on the novel
Simon versus the Homo sapiens Agenda,
What year is that
by
from?
Becky Albertalli, and let me double check. 2015.
Cool. So, a little bit older, but not
yeah.
too. Before we start, I want to do this early. We had a lot of listeners on our latest episode for Ready Player One. If you listen and you're enjoying the show, do us a favor. Go rate us and review us on iTunes or whatever service you listen to us through. We normally do this at the end, but I figured I'd throw one up front, because who knows how many people will get to the very end of the episode. But yeah, it's a big help, and we're almost at 20 reviews or ratings on iTunes.
Woohoo.
So be those next two people to rate us and review us those 2 times, so we can get trending or whatever. But only if you enjoy the show. Otherwise, don't do that. So, but also, if you don't enjoy it, then why are you listening? So, anyways, let's move along. Before we get into our segments, we're going to talk briefly about how we felt about the film. A little brief spoiler-free review and a little brief spoiler-free summary for those of you who haven't seen it, if you want to listen. After those 2 things, we will get into our segments, which will have spoilers, so you've been warned, as usual.
My name's Simon. For the most part, my life is totally normal. I have a family that I actually like, and there's my friends. We do everything friends do. We drink way too much iced coffee, walk gorging on carbs. So, I'm just like you, except I have one huge-ass secret.
Hey! I like your boots. I said I like your boots. Goodbye.
Nobody knows I'm gay.
Katie, what did you think of Love, Simon?
Oh, I really liked it. I thought it was super cute. I thought it had a great emotional center. I thought it was well acted. What did you think of Love, Simon?
Oh yeah, I felt very similarly. I thought it was delightful. I smiled a lot. It had lots of solid comedy throughout that helped drive along, or helped complement the very sweet, emotional elements of the film as it went, and I quite enjoyed it. I found myself smiling throughout it. I had a few moments here and there where I felt the beginnings of tears. I never cried, but where you get those very emotional, tugging on your heartstring moments, and it was just a good, nice movie. Very enjoyable. Very well done. But well crafted, I will say, for what it was trying to do. We'll get into some of my potential criticisms, but overall, I really, really enjoyed it. I think it was a great film. I would give it, a solid A minus maybe.
Yeah.
In that ballpark, maybe a B plus. Somewhere in there. Just like a really really well done, all great performances, well written, Yeah, just a few minor things here and there, and some of the more subjective elements that, like I said, we will get into that I might criticize. But other than that, no, really good. So we both recommend it. You can stop right here if you haven't seen it and want to go see it in theaters. Go check it out. If not, that's fine too. But we would both recommend it. Kat, you have to stop.
Are you done?
Now, a brief summary if you made it this far and you don't care to go see the film, which you should. Again, you should go see it. It's really good. But if you don't, we'll give you a brief summary so you have a little bit of a grounding for the things, what we're going to talk about here. Katie, how would you outline the story, avoiding spoilers, of Love, Simon?
So our protagonist, Simon, is a high school boy. Pretty normal. He talks about how normal he is.
A lot in the movie.
And then he says, but I have one big secret. Mm-hmm. And this isn't a spoiler.
No, it's in all the trailers.
Yeah, it's in all the trailers and everything. And his big secret is that he is gay.
Yeah.
But he's not out to anyone.
Anyone, no.
Not any friends, not any family, nobody. He starts up an email relationship with another student who goes to his high school, who is also gay, but not out to anyone.
And anonymous, yes.
Yes, and they don't know each other's true identities.
Nope. Just their online nicknames.
Yes.
Which are Jacques and Blue.
Yes.
In the movie.
Yes.
I'll say, without getting the... Yeah. Who knows? For the book.
So the story kind of follows him trying to figure out who Blue is as their relationship is like growing and becoming deeper and more meaningful. So I guess that's where I'll stop.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good summation.
Yeah.
And it's about trying to figure out who this mysterious Blue is, for Simon at least. And
right.
in the movie, we get the story from his perspective. And trying to figure out who that is, and then also coming to terms with coming out, and also dealing with some of the other generic high school drama type of stuff that you deal with in the 21st online, world of high school. And then some other, hijinks, that sort of thing. And then it all culminates with basically figuring out who Blue is and sort of resolving that storyline and the whole coming out process. So that's pretty much a summary. Again, no spoilers there yet, really. So now, if you haven't seen it and you do care, this is where the spoilers start. But we're going to get into our first segment with Guess Who?
Who are you?
No one of consequence.
I must know.
Get used to disappointment.
Hey.
Okay, we have 7 Guess Who's
How long
today.
are they?
They're all very short.
Okay, good.
The character description is kind of scattered around the book in little bits.
Yeah.
So I've kind of, I've collected some stuff from throughout the book and kind of cobbled it together into fuller descriptions of these characters. And some of them are still very short and kind of vague. So Here we go. Your glasses make you look like Harry Potter.
Wow. I don't think anybody has glasses in the movie. Maybe, if I'm going to base it... Okay, I'm going to try not to take too long on these. My initial thought was Simon, because Simon in the movie is sort of has brown hair, generic-looking white dude, could be Harry Potter-y, and if he had glasses, I could see him having glasses. In the book, he doesn't, that I recall, in the movie. I'm just going to go Simon.
It is Simon.
Okay. Whew.
He does wear glasses in the book. He wears glasses in a flashback in the movie.
Oh,
but he
does
doesn't.
he?
Yeah, he doesn't wear them the whole time. But he does have glasses in one or two flashbacks.
Yeah, he does mention some. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
That does vaguely sound familiar. I'll also state, just for the record, that we saw this about a week ago.
Yeah.
So I'm a little. It's not quite as fresh on every detail as it was when we first saw it. But
Okay, moving forward. She cocks her head, and I notice that her ear has 5 piercings, all the way up and around. Her curly blonde hair is really the opposite of emo, but it looks like she talked herself into the raccoon eyeliner.
Well, none of his friends have blonde hair in the movie, but I'm assuming they just changed. That doesn't mean anything. Who does that fit personality-wise? So his two female friends in the movie are Leah and Abby. Abby's the new one. Leah's the one he's been friends with forever. That fits Leah a little more because she's sort of more like, I don't know, counterculture-y, not really, but I feel like that fits a little more. It's not a sister. I would say Leah.
It actually is his sister.
Oh!
It's Nora. They made her a lot younger for the movie.
She's considerably young.
Yeah.
Well, she seems like she's supposed to be...
She seems like she's
middle
supposed to be
school.
maybe 10, 11 in that range. In the book, she is a freshman in high school.
Okay.
And he's a senior.
I could see her being... My thought was that she was, like I said, in, middle school, as opposed to, a freshman. But, yeah, and she doesn't have earrings, and, I mean, she looks just kind of like generic...
Yeah, she just looks like a kid.
Suburban white girl,
Yeah.
But she does have blonde hair, and I thought it could... Okay. All right, 1 for 2.
She's really young for her job, and she has bright red hair, like electric red.
Okay, for her job and red hair. The red hair could allude to her personality, and the one who has a fiery personality in the film would be the drama teacher. And so that's why I still think young for her job. She's not... Yeah, I bet it's the drama... I'm going to go drama teacher.
It is the drama teacher. And I actually changed that. In the book, it says she's really young for a teacher. But I changed it to try to trip you up.
Yeah,
but
no.
it didn't.
I mean, there's only teachers. The people that have jobs that we see are only teachers, pretty much.
It's true.
So. All right.
He also has those kind of shaggy brown bangs that I like, and dark ocean-colored eyes.
So now this could be numerous people. It could be which I don't remember his friend's name.
Nick.
Nick. Okay, it could be Nick because he's his other male friend. Now, obviously, that hair description doesn't fit, but they could have, they again. I have a feeling his friends are all kind of different, vaguely than they appear in the book. Would be my guess. It could also be any of in the movie, the 3 potential love interests. The one of those that would make the most sense would be the waiter from the diner, who he thinks it is second. Lyle. That would be my main guess, would be Lyle. And I'm going to say it's Lyle.
It's actually Cal, who was the third potential interest.
I almost...
Yeah, the one who was...
He's like bleach blondie, kind of... Didn't he have... Or frosted?
He had darker hair. Well, maybe it had blonde
I think
highlights.
He had frosted highlights or something.
The one who was in the drama club with them.
Yeah.
And actually, Lyle is not in the book.
Oh, okay.
So...
Well, spoilers for was that in the book. I didn't ask that, so... interesting. Okay. Yeah, that was the other thought, was that one of those love interests. I just wasn't... Okay. Or potential.
She's wearing tights and one of those short patterned dresses, and her left wrist is loaded with woven friendship bracelets.
Okay, one of them hasn't been Leah yet, or Abby, so it could be either of them. And that's really the only other female characters we haven't had that are important in the movie. But see, okay, Abby would make... Here, I'm going to try to deduct this, because Abby just moved. She just moved from wherever the fuck she came from. And they might have all given her friendship bracelets before she left, because she's going to her senior year at a new school. Sherlock Holmes this. It's Abby.
It is Abby. And I'm really proud of you for deducing that from that detail. Because girls actually do that.
I know. I almost didn't put it together, and then I thought about it. I was going to say Leah, but then I was like, no. One, Leah doesn't really have that many friends in the movie because she's kind of like a loner and mainly just friends with it. Or at least that's kind of how she plays it. Makes it seem like she's like, I'm not cool, blah, blah, blah. Whew! Got that one. I feel smart. All right.
He has extremely prominent knuckles. He has prominent everything. Huge eyes, long nose, full lips. Looking at him is exhausting.
Okay, so this could be Wally West, which I don't remember his name in the...
Bram.
Or it could be Martin. Shit. It's exhausting to look at. That could be a compliment or not. That could be both. I'm gonna go with Bram.
It is Martin.
Fuck. I almost switched to Martin. All right.
And Martin, I couldn't find a good place where they talk about this to squeeze into the description, but he's supposed to be like super tall. He's like 6 foot something in the book.
In the movie, he's
like a little short, kind of chubby guy.
Just generic looking dude with long blonde hair.
But like it's like the way they describe his movement in the book. I picture him like kind of looking like a weird marionette, like just like long and thin and gangly.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well.
Okay.
Shucks.
Last one.
I could end up above 50% if I get this one.
He has very expressive brown eyes, and light brown skin, and soft curls, and cute, knobbly hands.
It's Bram.
It is Bram. Yeah, it's Bram. It goes on.
Yeah, go ahead.
But,
sorry.
Oh, do you want me
no,
to?
Just finish.
Okay. He has these lips that meet just barely, like the slightest touch would coax them open. His ears are slightly big, and there are 2 freckles on his cheekbone, and his eyelashes are more dramatic than I've ever noticed.
You know what's funny is it's almost like they were looking at what's his name when they wrote like that script. Like they could not have cast a more apt actor to play that role from the book description. Which, if you haven't seen the movie, but if you have seen The Flash,
the
CW's version of The Flash, the kid who plays Wally West on that show, which that might be a spoiler, I don't remember. There's so many twists and turns in that show. But the kid who plays Wally West plays Bram, who's the first potential love interest in.
Yeah, and they got a spot on.
Yeah, that's exactly what he looks like. So, all right, 4 for 7. Above 50%. It's all I ever shoot for. So, cool. All right, let's move on to Was That in the Book?
Nicholas Flamel is the only known maker of the Philosopher's Stone.
The what?
Honestly, don't you two read?
I don't remember the context of this, but it has something to do with when he's talking to Blue they're talking about, like, people they find handsome in media or something, and one of them, I think it's Blue, says Jon Snow or Simon. One of them says that they're really like attracted to Jon Snow. I just want to know because, well, now thinking 2015, it probably wasn't, but who knows? Is that reference made for like? Do they say like that's like if they even talk about like famous celebrities they like or whatever? No? Okay. Because it's more than just a throwaway line. There's also the reference to the Game of Thrones t-shirt. Like, he's like looking for people wearing Game of Thrones shirt, and then like obviously like tons of people have Game of Thrones shirts because it's like the most popular TV show in the world, but makes it more relatable to the youth. All right. So Martin, super into Abby. Yeah, yes. Abby. And at one point in the film, he does an elaborate asking out during the national anthem of a football game. Does that happen in the book?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't?
No.
Okay. Is there anything similar to that, like where he asks her out?
No, he does ask her out, but it happens just like off screen.
Right. So just like he just asked her out or something, like at a normal, in a normal way. Because that was a funny scene, or or like one of those super funny in the way like The Office is funny, where you're like, God, this is the worst.
Yeah.
And it felt like a big moment for a movie that they wouldn't necessarily need in a book, but it does up the stakes.
It does,
and makes Martin's actions where he outs Simon a little more understandable. In the sense, when I say understandable, I just mean not from like it's more reasonable, but more understandable from the sense of like a kid who was like traumatized and like feeling very emotionally vulnerable might make a horrible, rash decision like that.
Yeah. No,
you know
I
what
understand
I mean?
what you're saying, yeah.
Which I don't know if that happens the same way if he outs him in the book.
Similarly.
Okay.
Not the exact same.
Yeah. But my thought there being that those extra sort of the extra sort of stakes in the humiliation for Martin and him being more emotionally compromised.
Right.
Makes
No,
it
yeah,
more believable.
it makes sense from that perspective. It makes a lot of sense as a movie ad because it's a big scene.
Yeah.
It would be kind of boring for it to happen off screen or like in private in the movie.
And it wouldn't make a lot of sense either because if that's the thing where he eventually you need that tension once that happens for the audience of like, oh shit, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
And if it happens off screen, we wouldn't even know about it necessarily. So
it's true.
This is just a question for a line because I thought it made me laugh, and I just wanted to know if this line was in the book or if the writers came up with it for the movie. After he is outed, a girl comes up to him and goes, "Did you date me because I look like a guy?" And he goes, "No, I broke up with you because you don't look like a guy." That was a good line.
Yeah.
Was that in the book?
It's not in the book,
Okay.
but I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, I just like because like her reaction, it's like one of those things where it makes no sense, but it's a dumb thing a high schooler would think.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god. Because her friends were like, giving her shit, or not necessarily her friends, but people were probably like, "Oh, you went out with Simon. Why did he like you? If he likes guys, like, why would he go out with you?" So like, you can see that, why that would play out. And I thought it's a good laugh line. So the drama teacher in this film, she at one point, she's a little unbelievable throughout, and now I had teachers like that and a little bit like that in high school with how casual they are, and she is described as younger for her job. So, but those teachers that lack the sort of professional decorum that maybe older teachers would have. But there's a particular moment in the film where she, after the two like bully-ish kids in the school dress up as Simon and the other gay kid at the school, or the out gay kid at the school, which I can't remember his name, and they're like making fun of him and shit in the lunchroom. She comes up and like reams him out in front of everybody in a way that while I understand and while I get it, and it's like a fun moment, I'm like, I feel like as a teacher, you cannot say the things she was saying to students, and I just wanted to know if that was in the book.
There is a similar scene in the book where there is some mocking-based bullying, and she does put a stop to it.
Right.
It does not play out the same way.
Okay.
She doesn't say anything potentially inappropriate.
Yeah.
That was a movie thing.
I don't remember even exactly what it was at this point, but I just remember as that scene was happening, I was like, I don't know if you can say that about students.
It was funny.
It was funny.
It was really funny.
No, it's really funny, but and you're on board, and and they're jerks, so sure. It's just like,
right. It was more put me in mind of like maybe a college instructor could get away with that.
Yeah.
Like, because it wasn't like inappropriate, like she was cursing at them or like she said anything.
No, but it was stuff along the lines of like you guys are gonna peak in high school and you're never gonna go anywhere with your lives, and I'm like, you're a teacher, you can't say that to kids. Like I don't know, it just pushed over the line of like, that's really inappropriate to say to, even though, no matter how big of jerks as they're being. I even had teachers in high school who would call out jerky students and do it in a funny way. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But just something about how she did it was just a little too like, you can't say that they have no futures and like they're still in school. Like, you gotta like,
sure, yeah.
Or like,
if it's true.
Even if it's true. I don't know. It just seemed like you're gonna get written up for that or something. I don't know. But okay, so it definitely amped up for the movie for the moment. That makes sense. Finally, this is big spoilers. So it turns out we go through in the course of the movie 3 potential people that he thinks it could be that could be Blue. We start with Wally West, Bram, and then he sees Bram kissing a girl, So he's like, it can't be him. And then he moves on, and I will say, as much as I enjoyed this movie, it was nothing if not predictable. Whatever the word, like whatever the saying is, where it was very obvious where this is all going. I thought, with it being Bram ultimately. So ultimately, it ends up being Bram,
Right.
Wally West, the first kid he thought it was. After he thinks it's two other people, it turns out it's not.
Right. He initially thinks it's Bram, and then he sees Bram
Yeah.
with a girl.
Yeah, that's what I
at
said.
the Halloween party. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he thinks it's two other guys potentially, and then at the end it ends up being Bram.
Yeah.
So it does end up being Bram.
Okay.
In the book.
Is he the first person he thinks it is, too?
No.
Okay.
Which I have this in my general notes, but we can talk about it a little bit now because I really liked that they did that.
Yeah.
Because I went in having read the book thinking, oh, I know who it is. Right?
Oh, like from the trailers, or like, oh, you mean, oh, I see what you mean, because you knew that was Bram.
Because I knew that it ends up being Bram. So then, like, right at the beginning of the movie, when they start, like, really pushing the idea that it's Bram, I was sitting there like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Why are they going so hard on this right now?
Yeah.
What are they doing? And then when he sees him with the girl, like, it totally got me.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, like, I guess they changed it.
Yeah.
To make it different from the book.
Right.
To, like, fool people.
Yeah.
And then it ended up being for him anyway.
Yeah.
So I kind of liked that I got to be surprised.
Yeah, that's a nice surprise for book readers,
Yeah.
people who would know, who know, and I would bet 90% of people who saw it probably didn't read the book, if not more. Mm-hmm. But it would just be a guess because I'd never heard of the book. I didn't know it was based on a book until you said it was. I was like, oh shit! Like I knew it's been a fairly popular movie, and so a lot of people have seen it, and I had no idea it was based on a book. But no, that is a fun surprise or fun thing to do for people who have read the book, and I think it's effective even for moviegoers like me. I've still parsed it. I mean, it's generally for a slightly younger audience.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a young adult / whatever that other term you use.
Well, it is a young adult book.
Yes. And so its target audience, I would say, is probably, it's for everybody. It's not, it's definitely not only for younger people, but the target audience is in that age range where it would be very effective on them.
Yeah.
I had a vibe just from the whole thing that I was like, nah, it's going to end up being him. Like, it's still going to end up being him. Part of that, to be fair, is because they cast fucking Wally West in that role. Because that actor, to me, one, Greg Berlanti is the guy who produced and directed all of the CW TV shows. Mm-hmm. The guy who directed this.
Oh.
He did The Flash. He did everything
that.
on CW. Like, he's the executive producer of, like, everything. He's like their Kevin Feige of the CW TV universe. Kevin Feige's the guy who does all the Marvel, like the executive producer of all the Marvel shit. So, casting that actor, part of it was that. I was like, you don't cast a pretty big, I say pretty big, I mean, not that the Flash that big, but he's like a main player in such a small role in that movie, and especially when, obviously, I think Greg Berlanti really likes him as an actor and that sort of thing, so he's going to put him in a role that is bigger. He's
not going to put him in, like, a bit role.
A bit role that's in it for the first act, and then we never see again, so I was like, okay. So that was part of it, and most people might not think about it that way, but, and then just sort of how it was done, I just had a feeling that that's where it was going, but yeah, most people wouldn't, and it's a good twist, and it makes for a nice moment at the end where it potentially subverts your expectations if you weren't doing what I was doing and trying to figure it out so hard. But yes, okay. Well, that was all I had for Was That in the Book?
Awesome.
I have a lot of general notes, and I really only have one Lost in Adaptation, but we'll do it now. Time for Lost in Adaptation.
Just show me the way to get out of here, and I'll be on my way.
Where is it lost?
Yes, and I want to get unlost as soon as possible.
Okay, for this, I only have one, because it's really not tough to follow or, nothing particularly confusing. But I did have one moment that I wasn't quite sure about, and I might have figured it out later, but I'm still not sure. And maybe it's just because I had such a hard it was so brief, and I had a hard time recognizing who it was. There's a flashback to his first only date with a girl
at the middle school dance.
At the dance? Is that middle school? Okay.
Probably.
I don't know. At the dance.
It looked like a middle school dance to me.
Sure. at that dance, and she goes to kiss him or whatever, and he freaks out and runs away and leaves. And there's a good joke about kids are drinking, and his mom comes and picks him up. Was that girl Leah?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
It's not in the book.
What, the middle school dance scene thing?
No, that's in the book.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he talks about it. He makes reference to it.
But it's not
like
described
flashback.
as being Leah in the book?
No, it's some other girl. And I don't think it's meant to be in the movie.
I don't think so. What I ended up thinking it was that girl that has the line later about did you date me? I think it is, but they're both
more likely
brunettes with similar faces, and since it was supposed to be a few years earlier, I wasn't I mean, it was so quick and it was in a dark gym. I was like, was that Leah?
Well, and two, I think that they would have brought that up later in the movie if it had been her. Yeah. Because the reason he runs off, is it that she tries to kiss him or that she tells him that she loves him?
One of the two, yeah. Maybe that she loves him. I can't remember.
But he and Leah have a kind of a serious conversation later, and I feel like that would have come up. Right. If that had been her.
Fair enough. That makes sense. I guess my thought was that, yeah. That does make sense. Because that's a whole plot point, which I'll have in my general notes about what an idiot Simon is. But, yeah, so I'm sure it's just some other girl. And probably, if you look closely, if you haven't seen it yet and you're going back, it's probably the girl who he talks to later, has that one great throwaway line about not looking like a boy or whatever. Yeah. I bet it's her, but who knows. Let's move on to Better in the Book.
You like to read?
Oh, yes. I love to read.
What do you like to read?
Everything.
Okay, so my first note here, Simon has a dog. And in the movie, it's like a little terrier kind of a dog. It's a little scruffy looking.
Yeah, it's not in it much, but
yeah. And the dog's name is Bieber. As in
the book?
And in the movie.
Oh, is it? Okay,
yeah,
I missed that.
They call him Bieber as in Justin Bieber.
Okay.
So in the book, the reason that the dog is named Bieber is because he's a golden retriever. So he has the long blonde.
Oh.
Think this is Justin Bieber before he started doing his hair.
Right.
Remember when he had the
longer
long...
It wasn't blonde, it was brown.
Do you know what Justin Bieber looks like?
Pretty sure he didn't have blonde hair. But
he looks just like a golden retriever.
That's
why it was funny. But it doesn't make sense if you change the type of dog. Now you just have a dog named Bieber for no reason.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. It doesn't really make sense. Oh, and he had it dyed blonde? Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Come on now.
I felt like it. Yep, that makes sense. Never mind. I'll put it as mark it as a point of pride that I didn't know what Justin Bieber looked like. I don't know. I don't think about him, so. But yeah, you're right. Changing it doesn't make.
Yeah,
it's just weird. Why'd you name your dog after Justin Bieber?
Yeah. I could have done without the principal.
What?
The principal is not in the book, and I get it. But, it was so cringy.
Oh, that's the point.
I know, I get that. But it was so cringy. And, to me, it just felt, over the top and fake.
I'll give you a couple times it felt they went a little too far with it a few times.
Yeah.
Where it became a character, it became unbelievable in terms of,
yeah.
Okay, nobody's that oblivious.
Yeah, nobody's gonna really say that.
Yeah. And it had a few moments of that where it was just a couple scenes where that happened. But in general, I thought he was great. I thought he was a lot of fun. And it's in the film, the vice principal. They always make them vice principals. Have you noticed that?
Okay.
What is that
Yeah, and
about?
I just want to bring up, there wasn't a vice principal at my high school. At least I don't remember there being... I feel like that's a movie thing. Was there a vice principal at your high school?
I think we did. What we had that I remember, there was an overall principal.
Yeah.
And then there was grade principals. We had, the ninth grade principal, the 10th grade principal. But
there was no vice principal.
I don't think we had vice principals. My only thought is that that's what they call them because it's a more catch-all for people, whereas saying like he was the 12th grade principal or the senior principal or whatever.
Yeah.
Some people might not have had that, and like older people probably did. I don't know. But yeah, the thing to me that's always funny is that in movies, it's always the vice principal who's like the character.
Like, you never see the actual principal.
And I guess the idea is that the day-to-day, the principal doesn't spend as much time walking around in the hallways day-to-day, like...
Oh, our principal did.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think ours did too, so I don't know where that comes from. I don't know why, but it's if you watch movies, it's almost always a vice principal that plays that character, like the involved in their lives principal character.
Okay, here's what we're gonna do. If you're listening and your high school had a vice principal, we want to hear from you.
Yeah.
Comment on Facebook post. We go make a post on Reddit.
Yeah.
Whatever. I want to know if anyone out there had a vice principal.
And on top of that, if you didn't or whatever, if you know why the trope, and I guess we could probably look in TV tropes, they might have, or film tropes might have this, why the vice principal trope is a thing. Like, why is it always the vice principal and, like, never the principal that plays that character? I don't understand. But anyways, that character in this film, the vice principal, is played by Tony Hale, who plays Buster Bluth on the TV show Arrested Development. That actor, he was also in a Herbal Essence commercial years ago. Funny story. So I looked this up randomly for stuff when I'm doing editing videos for YouTube, and I will randomly I need the Herbal Essence music or commercial, and I look it up, and when I found it, I was like, oh, the guy, it's the one where the girl is in the shower, the whole Herbal Essence commercials where they're making orgasmic sounds in the shower while they're washing their hair. The guy who's in the bathroom with his wife is that actor.
Huh.
So there's a random trivia you didn't need. You're welcome.
You never know when that could come up.
Yeah.
You just never know.
You never know.
Anyway, I could have done without him.
I hard disagree, but all right.
I liked Simon's sisters better in the book. Sisters, plural.
Yeah, I'll say there's only one in the movie.
He had an older sister who was away at college. She got cut.
Yeah.
I get why she got cut.
Yeah.
But I did miss her. I liked the idea of him being a middle child, because he does read a lot
it plays
a middle child.
Like a middle child. Mm-hmm. Makes more sense to kind of get lost in a shuffle and ish sort of thing.
And I liked when his younger sister Nora was closer to his age.
I didn't know her when she was closer to age because I didn't read the book, but I liked her portrayal. I liked her in the movie. She's not in a ton, but I enjoyed their dynamic and sort of making her younger, but still, I think one of the things it did is it gave younger kids someone to somewhat identify with in the movie. I mean, she plays old for her age. Like, she plays more mature than a kid her age probably would be. But I liked the idea that even when Simon eventually is outed, she comes into his room and is very understanding, or is trying to be at least, and he freaks out and yells at her or whatever. But I liked that, the idea that somebody her age would be able to understand and kind of grasp what's going on with a situation like fair. That, I thought was interesting. And that she had that emotional maturity to get it, sort of, which you don't see a lot with those kind of characters. But I could see it going either way. So, I mean, with her being older or younger, I could see,
I thought that the movie might have gone maybe a little hard on making Martin a weirdo.
Okay. Well, I don't know his character in the book, so
is a little more nuanced. He is kind of he's a goofy guy, kind of a class clown type. Not so great at social cues.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought that the movie maybe went just a smidge too hard on it.
I'll take your word for it, because again, I don't have the comparison. I thought he was interesting. I thought he might not have been as sympathetic as the movie wanted him to be.
Yeah.
While they had some good moments, and I thought it was interesting, I really enjoyed the fact that his character even had a scene like the diner scene, which I should have asked if that was in the book, and I can now. We're out of it, but whatever. The scene where in the diner where him and Abby and Simon are hanging out, and this is post the blackmailing, in order to get blackmailing Simon so that him and Abby can hang out and whatever. And he has that moment where it starts really awkward, but then it turns into something really genuine, where he's like talking to her and is like, "You're an outstanding person, and you just whatever, you deserve everything or the world," or something like that. Does that happen in the book?
Sort of.
Or similar?
There's a very similar scene, but it doesn't play out the same way. They don't like talk about how amazing Abby is.
Okay. I just thought the way that scene played out in the movie was interesting because it starts really weird and in a way where it feels really uncomfortable, but then it goes in a direction that's really, like I said, kind of cool and like sweet, I guess, for lack of a better word. But that's really like the only scene where we sort of get any redeeming-ish qualities from Martin, really.
And I agree with you that I don't think he was as sympathetic as they kind of maybe were trying to make him. And maybe that's why I felt like they went too hard on it. Because it just, I don't know, it was just like everything about him was like, please stop.
I think that's on purpose because he is, well, see, I thought it worked because he is exactly, I knew kids like that in high school.
Yeah.
And I think everybody did, where it's sort of just, it's where he's really bad at reading social cues and situations to where you're just like, because the thing that always drives me crazy about characters like that, and something I'm probably guilty of in the opposite direction, is when characters like that are so oblivious or don't care to notice that people don't want them around. Mm-hmm. It makes me really uncomfortable because I'm so hypersensitive to that when characters when it's like, I would never, especially when I was younger, like in high school, I never could have been the person to like, we going to that party? Are we going to that party later? Or can I come to that party? Like, if they wanted you there, they would invite you. And so for me, like, well, and I don't say that in a mean way. I say that in like, if that was me, I wouldn't want to go to that party.
Right.
Because I would feel the whole time like nobody wants me here. And those are my own insecurities that I had. And I still have to some extent sometimes. But like, I can't imagine being that person who just doesn't feel that at all, or like is oblivious to the idea that these people don't want to hang out with me. Like these people, aren't interested in me. Like why?
Right.
Like that's.
Yeah, no, and from that perspective, I guess I don't think he's like an unrealistic character because you're right. We did all know a kid like that in school. But, like, I don't know, it was little things like he was a magician and also the mascot.
Yes.
Like,
they did hit every sort of shtick for that kind of character. True. I forgot about the magician part.
And that was weird, too, because they never, like, did anything with it.
No, he just,
It was just, like, he went over to his house and he had a bunch of, like, magic stuff.
Yeah,
and
you
I
really
was
thought
like,
it was going to play in at some point somehow.
Like,
he was going to do something with it, but it never really matters other than just like...
look how weird this kid is.
He is.
He likes magic
what
tricks.
What a dork. Yeah.
Fun story. On our third date, Brian did magic tricks for me.
What a dork. I like magic, alright? I'm a big fan. I think it's cool. Illusion.
I was charmed.
There you go. Sometimes it works. You gotta read the room. I can read the room. But yeah, no, I thought he was. I can see what you're saying. That there's definitely, like you said, when he hits the magician thing, hits the mascot, it's a little like, okay, we get it. Like we get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what they could have done, to my point earlier, because when I was saying that I don't think he's quite as sympathetic as the movie wants him to be. It's like you gotta give me a little more than that one really nice scene where he, if that's what they wanted, maybe it's not, but if that was what they wanted, I needed another scene, because he's straight up blackmailing the character we care about.
Yeah.
In order to get with a girl that does not like him.
Oh yeah, he is not being a good person
no, he is
at
being
all.
Horrible. And it's even in a way beyond like awkward high school, like weird. Like awkward high school.
He's being gross and manipulative.
Yes. And so you would need a little more, or at least a little more, and maybe he just needed more backstory. Like, maybe that's what he needed more. It wasn't him doing nice things. It was more, why is he... Is there some circumstances that sort of explain why he's so weird and manipulative. If that makes sense. Like, if there's some home situation that we don't know about that maybe at least could lend some sort of sympathy to his situation. Again, I don't know what it would be. I don't even know if you could do it, because again, he's blackmailing a kid about his sexuality so he can hang out and try to be with a girl that doesn't care or doesn't like him, or, you know, and so it's like, all right, Jesus. And so they try to give him those moments to where we at least see that he has some redeeming qualities potentially in the movie. I say some. He has that one moment that I recall. There might be others, but and he does make a point of saying, and I don't know if this is in the book, when he first finds out that Simon's gay, he goes, "By the way, my brother's gay." Martin says,
is in the book.
Okay,
yeah.
and I feel like they're trying to like let that play some sort of. I don't know what that's supposed to be. I don't know what that moment's supposed to be where he tells Simon that my brother's gay. Like,
I mean, I think it's probably an acknowledgement of the way that like straight people tend to to do that. Like,
yeah, and then go on to be super terrible and like super awful.
Like, oh, I have another gay friend. Right. Do you know them?
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't all that sympathetic in the movie. He's not much more sympathetic in the book.
Yeah,
but he's maybe a little more charming. And there are like tiny little differences that don't necessarily make his behavior better. Like, for example, he does end up outing Simon by posting about it on the blog. It's a Tumblr.
Well, yeah. In the movie, it's like one of those like. Post secrets or whatever type of deal.
Yeah,
where
it's a forum where anyone can post anonymously.
Yeah, and just post whatever they want.
Right? Yeah. So he does post this thing about Simon being gay on there, but he doesn't actually post the screenshots of the emails in the book, which I think kind of makes a difference.
There's at least some difference because there's not hard evidence. It's just a rumor at that point.
Yeah.
Versus...
Yeah.
Like, here, I mean, but even then, I guess the emails could be fake. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of extra step of, there's corroborating evidence of some sort when you post the emails.
And, too, we find out later in the book that he actually, like, deleted it within minutes.
Yeah, and that's never alluded to.
I don't think they ever
unless
say
I'm
anything.
He definitely apologizes eventually.
Yeah.
But... yeah, there's never like I did it in a fit of rage and immediately deleted it sort of thing. Mm-hmm. At least not that I recall. Again, it's been a week. That might have been. And
again, like those little details, like I said, they don't make what he did any better.
Yeah,
but it feels slightly different.
Yeah, different.
Moving on from Martin, so Simon's dad. Is kind of the character that we see little microaggressions through.
Yeah.
Like, he makes...
in the film.
Yeah, in the film. And in the book as well.
Yeah.
He makes, like, little gay jokes.
Gay jokes and the sort of... and not even gay jokes sometimes, but just... I mean, lots of gay jokes, but also just, like... and you know, microaggressions in the sense of, like... oh, isn't that chick hot? Like, that sort of stuff, you know, where it's not even like he's actively being... weird, like if his son was straight, it wouldn't be that weird of a, you know, to be like, wow, she's pretty, like that's not a completely ridiculous, but without knowing and in the context, it is what you would probably consider like a microaggression type thing.
So he's that character that we see that through, and so in the movie they have kind of like a tearful conversation about it where his dad apologizes, and it kind of gets like swept away. Yeah. Like, he just, like, kind of mentions, like, he's like, oh, all the jokes.
Yeah.
And then Simon's like, no, it's okay.
Yeah.
But in the book, Simon blows up at him. Like, it's a big confrontation, and he yells at him about it.
Yeah.
And I like that better.
I like that better, too. I like that better, too. And it's one of my biggest overall criticisms, and this might just be as good a place to get in, and I don't want to get way too into it, because for one... I can criticize. See, the thing is, it's a really well-made film, really with a tight script, and it's really well constructed. And I don't think it's necessarily my place as a straight white guy to like, or not even white. Whiteness doesn't matter. As a straight guy, as a cis het dude, to be like, I don't think this is representative of the coming out story of, know, like, I don't know. Fuck, I've never had to come out. I have no idea. But that one of the things that felt a little off, or that I wondered about, is sort of more of like, I wonder like how people who have dealt with this situation in their actual life and have lived this experience would sort of see this movie. And is that it's sort of all a little too easy, it feels like.
Yeah, it is definitely, like, the most ideal outcome that you could possibly hope for.
Yes, not to downplay any of his struggles, the fact that he was outed unwillingly, that's all terrible stuff. And it's not that, and you don't want to have, like, the suffering Olympics of, like, whose, coming out story was, like, way worse. Right.
You don't gain anything.
It's not helpful. My only question and sort of whole thing I felt was like, is this all just like a little too clean and neat and tidy and easy, and like the school gets over it really quick, and like it gets over it really quick with his dad, and his dad gets over it and is cool with it pretty quick. I mean, again, it's a movie versus a book, so the time frame could be,
right.
But like it all gets wrapped up in the last act, and everybody's really cool about it. Generally speaking, I mean, the whole fucking school comes out and gives him a standing ovation at the fucking, like, it all just feels a little saccharine and, like, whitewashed. I don't know. But again, that's just how I kind of felt. And now, it was delightful the whole time, and it's a lot of fun, and it made me smile, and the moments with his dad and his coming out made me tear up, and, like, it's super effective at its sort of what it's doing. I don't know. That was just my only feelings that kind of...
Yeah, and I think, like, on the one hand, I feel like it's probably not accurately representative of most people's coming out experience.
And it doesn't have to be, I guess, but...
Right. But then on the other hand, and we talked about this a little bit after we saw it, it's, first of all... Gay people need, like, lighthearted, happy, romantic comedies, too.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, that should be a thing that gay people are allowed to have.
Absolutely should.
And also, like, this is also, it's a coming-of-age story.
Yeah.
And a lot of gay coming-of-age stories are kind of depressing.
Yeah, they can. Not that I've seen a ton, but yeah, I would see.
Yeah. So, something a little lighter is...
Yeah.
To me, it feels a little fresh.
Yeah.
And I also think that... And this is also kind of like a double-edged thing, because this movie is becoming, like, so mainstream. Like, it's getting great reviews. Yeah. A lot of people are talking about it. Like, on the one hand... I think it would be great if maybe it was more just a tiny bit realistic.
A little more realistic, yeah.
So that people who might not come into contact with this kind of story could see that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, let's normalize it.
Yeah, this is what we do. The same discussion we had, like I said, when we got out, or like you said, when we got out of the movie the other night, we kind of had this exact same discussion. I 100% agree that it's, the fact that it is sort of played as such a normal, cool, and then everybody gets over it and it's fine type of thing is good. I mean, it's ideal. That's what it is. It's an idealistic sort of outcome in the movie. So yeah, I appreciate that about it, and I think you're right. I think that could be, it's a good thing to have, and it's one of the things is that not every movie has to be everything. Like, not every movie has to encapsulate every experience and it's because it's impossible, for one thing. But on top of that,
and when movies try, they fail.
Yeah, when they try to do it, they fail. So you can't encapsulate every experience and every sort of outcome and facet of a story like this. You can't cover it all so that it feels representative to everybody, because it's impossible. And what I kind of wished it was that just to get back to your original point here before we get way too off in the weeds, I think a moment like that might have helped my feeling, where he blows up at the dad. Yeah. Not because the dad necessarily deserved it so much as which he deserved it in the sense of being ignorant and not thinking about it and that sort of thing, but more so just because there needs to be that catharsis. Oh wow, I butchered that. that I tried to, I couldn't decide between catharsis and cathartic release, and I kind of went for Simon for dealing with this for so long, and then it also adds sort of an extra element of just like realism,
right? And it also kind of sends the message, or it would have if they had done this, of like, hey, that's not okay for you to do.
Yeah.
Like, that actually has an effect on people.
Yeah.
Whereas the way they did it, like I said, they kind of brushed it under the rug.
Yeah.
And he was, like, kind of immediately fine with it. And that, like, bugged me.
Yeah, he gets off kind of scot-free in the sense of, like, the movie goes, yeah, but... And I mean, now the moment in the film where he does finally have that... So his dad initially is supportive, or did I say not really supportive?
He's maybe just a little uncomfortable.
He's just uncomfortable and aloof and sort of ignoring the whole thing. And then eventually they have that moment in the driveway and they have a big, emotional, like, his dad apologizes and feels really bad and he says he's super proud of him. And it's a great emotional moment in the sense that, like, I teared up because it's, like, the acting is brilliant and everything about it. And so you would have to do it in two phases. You would have to have the early blow up and then still have that payoff. You wouldn't have to, I guess, but because that moment was so nice.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing: you're right. Is that it? I don't know if it deserved that. Like it would make sense because he needs. He just, like you said, he just gets off a little easy of like all of these years of just sort of casual bigotry or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And not even ill meaning, just, casual.
Yeah.
Sort of
thoughtless.
Thoughtless. Yeah. And it's the movie, the message you can get from it is the movie goes, well, as long as he says I love you and I'm proud of you, none of that mattered.
Right.
Like, that's all. I mean, not the movie's saying it's fine. It's very clear the movie's saying this is bad earlier on when he's saying that. Like, it's very obvious, like, ugh. But it just sort of, gets swept away. Like, no. Well.
And I thought that something like that could have gone a long way towards balancing some aspects of the messages here. But I actually want to hold off talking about Ethan, because I want to talk about that.
I did almost go there.
Yeah.
I didn't.
I only have a couple left for Better in the Book, so...
Okay.
So Cal, the third potential love interest who was hanging out with them he's also in the drama club or whatever, is bisexual in the book.
Oh.
And I want to know where my bisexual Cal was in the movie.
Yeah. They just don't ever... I got the vibe he was gay in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just sort of vaguely from, like, the way he interacted with
Simon. I thought that might have been where they were going with it, but I wasn't sure if that was because I knew his character was bisexual.
Yeah.
But they didn't ever actually mention it.
Yeah.
Like, in the book, he actually asks Simon out, and it's kind of cute.
Oh, that's interesting. I feel like they might have worried that would have muddied up Simon's sort of journey, and not even muddied it, but, like, would have been an extra thing for the audience to be thinking about towards the climax of this film about,
that's
like,
true.
wait, he's gay. Oh, wait, what? Yeah, I don't know. Like, so they just don't really go into it. He's just another character.
And I did like, because Simon asks him point blank near the end if he's blue, and he's like, no, I'm not, but do you want to talk about it? And I liked that they had that in there. That was nice.
It was a nice moment to see a kid like that have, that there was, one of these kids is not an asshole. I mean, most of them are. It was the other thing is the movie is like everybody seems pretty chill, like in the movie overall, other than like the two jerks, which is also, and who knows how realistic that is, but like everybody seemed real cool about all of it, generally speaking.
I don't know. It's hard to say because, I mean, you hear a lot of stories about bullying that goes on in high schools now.
Yeah.
I mean, we went to high school like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it, like, I don't know about you, but my high school was not a super friendly environment to...
No.
Yeah.
No, and my thought would be, in 10 years we've probably come a fairly long way.
Well, that's my thought, and especially the younger generations tend to be more progressive than the generations before them.
Yeah. And we also, where does this take place? Do we know?
Well, the book takes place just outside of Atlanta.
Okay.
I don't think the movie ever says, but I checked and it was filmed in Atlanta. So
I would have guessed like the Northeast, but that's just like that was my thought because like the football game it seemed cold, but Not that means anything. I guess that could also be Atlanta in the winter and fall.
Yeah.
But yeah, depending on where you were in Atlanta, I guess. I mean, like, I don't know shit about Atlanta. It's a big city. It's probably a fairly liberal in the areas, the suburbs around Atlanta probably have.
Yeah.
I mean, like most metropolitan areas tend to lean progressive. So who knows? I could be wrong.
But to my point,
yes.
I don't know how much has changed in high schools since I was in high school. I don't know how much more progressive the average American high schooler is now.
I bet it depends a lot about where you are.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of want to ask, because I have a feeling it depends almost entirely on where that high school is located. Not entirely. That's not fair. In general, I'm sure it's better pretty much everywhere, at least a little bit. But even more so in certain places where it's like,
okay, one other random thing that I missed from the book. There is an all-girl band, like rock band, featuring Nora on lead guitar and Leah on the drums.
Sweet. Who's Nora?
His sister.
Oh, okay.
Who's older in the book.
Right.
And then my last thing for better in the book, speaking of Leah. So in the book, Leah is a little bit of a bitch, but she had more of a character than she did in the movie.
Yeah.
She was a little... Meh.
Yeah.
But she had more of a character. She was more interesting. And Becky Albertalli, I have no idea how to pronounce this woman's last name. She is actually writing a sequel to this book called Leah on the Beat, in which it is revealed that Leah is bisexual. And I was really hoping, because I went into the movie knowing that. I found that out like the same day. And I was really hoping that was what they were alluding to with like her and Abby. Because there were some moments in the movie where I felt like maybe Leah was a little into Abby.
Could have been. I read it more as jealousy, but I didn't know that, so.
Which, and in the book, she is super jealous of Abby, so that makes sense that you read it that way. So I was a little disappointed when she, like, confessed her love to Simon.
Oh, is that not in the book? Mm-mm. Oh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Because, that was one of my notes for later we're talking about now, is I was, like, super obvious, and, like, Simon was so super oblivious to the fact that Leah was in love with him, and it was like... Are you stupid? Like, I don't think even I was that oblivious in high school. Like, the way she talks to him and, like, the conversations they have. I'm like, really? Dude? Come on.
Well, that was all I had for better in the book.
All right. No, that was a lot of good stuff. Let's move on to better in the movie.
My life has taught me one lesson, Hugo, and not the one I thought it would. Happy endings only happen in the movies.
All right. So let's talk about Ethan.
Yes.
The other gay kid.
The only, as far as we know, in the movie at least.
And he is very stereotypically gay.
Yes.
He's not in the book.
Okay.
At all. And I enjoyed that addition. Mm-hmm. I thought it at least worked towards kind of rounding out the portrayal of gay characters, at least a little bit.
Yeah. And it did give Simon some nice moments.
Yeah.
With him and his sort of acceptance. Because there's a scene, and I didn't mean if you were still...
Oh, no, go ahead.
There's a scene early where, like, when they're first showing up to school, the first time we see them, and Ethan's there, and people are giving him shit or something. Mm-hmm. And Simon says something to the effect of, like, he doesn't make it easy on himself, or like he doesn't because he's so not only out but like stereotypically
he's stereotypically flamboyant and
kind
of feminine,
his dressing, and his dressing is long. Yeah, he honestly at times I thought there was going to be there might have been some interesting foray into him being trans, and I thought that would be a very because he and again he dress whatever the fuck you want And I think we need to abolish the sort of gender norms of clothes anyways, but it's a whole topic for another day. I just, in the world we live in right now, the way he dressed and the way he did his hair made me wonder, like, because he has, like, very long, like, well-kept
It's
hair.
very well coiffed.
And it's a feminine type of hairstyle.
Yes.
And his clothing is very feminine. Again, all coded feminine to what we currently understand and identify as feminine. Gender is a construct. Anyways. So, my point being that I thought maybe that was where that was going to go, was that not like he came out gay because that was potentially easier at the time and still is potentially than coming out as trans. And maybe he didn't even know. And I thought maybe it was going to take some direction to that. I didn't need to. I just thought maybe that's where it was going. But didn't go that way. But so Simon says earlier, he says something along the lines of, hey, he basically shaming, he doesn't say it to Ethan, but to his friends, makes a joke about basically, like, if he just acted more straight, people wouldn't make fun of him as much. Essentially, kind of being his thing.
Yeah.
And now part of that is Simon's own insecurities, obviously.
Right.
But then another part of it is, I think that, Simon sort of growing, because he could even, as, a gay man, he has his own hang-ups about things. And I think that was just a little thing you kind of see, like, because he is a very straight-laced, like he says, he's like, I'm super normal. Like, I'm just super normal, like, or relatively speaking.
Yeah.
And so he has a moment later in the office with Ethan where he doesn't apologize, but he sort of has like
they have like a nice moment of understanding
Yeah.
and like identifying with each other.
Yeah.
And I did like that through Ethan, they were able to at least give a nod to the kind of struggles that often come with coming out.
I still, this is, and I think we talked about this a little bit. I wish they had done more with that, maybe.
Yeah.
I wish they had made it, because in that conversation they talk about the fact that, because Simon says something like, oh, it's always been so easy for you or whatever, to be out.
Yeah.
Basically. And Ethan's like, no, I've just been doing it for a while. And he talks about the fact that his mother is not super accepting. She doesn't like disowned him or anything, but she's like when they go to like Christmas, she talks about him having girlfriends and things like that. And so she hasn't accepted it really, but she, again, I was like, it might have been something to have use that moment and that character to have a further representation of sort of some of the negative outcomes can be of being out and especially with family and that sort of thing, and push that a little further than just my mom says I have a girlfriend sometimes.
I mean, I do think that they could have maybe pushed it a little further, but the difference for me was that that's not present in the book at all.
Right. Yes, so it is.
So at least the movie like gave it a nod.
Yes, at least giving some nod to the fact that it's not always like your parents are just like cool with it after a week, and then like you keep being the rich white dude that you are.
Not always sunshine and rainbows.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah. I just wish they could have. I thought they had a really good opportunity with that Ethan character to maybe explore a little bit more of some of the hardships. And they did to some extent. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah. So I really liked the college, like, fantasy type sequence.
That was amazing. I loved that.
Was hilarious.
That was so good. I almost asked, was that in the book, but I knew it wasn't.
Yeah,
it's
that's a total movie thing. Where, but he, like, he's like, I'm not ready to come out right now. I'll come out in college and I'll be super gay.
Yeah.
And then they do, like, a musical number.
On, like, a college campus.
Everybody's wearing, like, rainbow clothes.
And, like, throwing confetti and doing choreographed, like, big tunes or, show stage dance numbers. Yeah, it was super fun. That was the moment where I was like, all right, movie, you got me. This is good.
And then at the end of it, he's like, maybe not that gay.
Maybe not that gay, yeah. No, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I really liked that. They changed the show that the drama club is putting on.
Oh, yeah,
they're putting on Cabaret in the movie. And in the book, they're putting on Oliver. Which, the whole reason that they're putting on Oliver in the book, I assume, is there's a character in Oliver named Fagin, spelled Fagin. So there's an incident of bullying with some, like, crossed out letters.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's just an interesting reason to make that for a plot contrivance in a book.
Yeah.
Like, how can I get away where bullies can call somebody a bad word? I know, they'll be putting on a play that has a name that's similar to that word. Brilliant.
It's a little contrived. But I thought switching it was a good choice because Cabaret has themes that are a little more in line with the story.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Although I am hesitant to believe that any high school would be allowed to put on Cabaret.
Yes, that was my thought. And with characters in the full Nazi uniforms.
Yeah.
I was like, really?
Yeah. No, my favorite thing was that they're like doing their first rehearsal and the two Nazi characters have the armbands on.
That's what I mean. Not even that they were Nazi.
Did you just like need a way for the audience to see that they're Nazis?
Yeah.
Or like, what are you doing?
I know.
Because nobody else has costume pieces on.
Just the Nazis. And I was like, I feel, I could be wrong, that a high school, if you're going to do that, and you're going to keep the Nazis, I don't know enough about Cabaret to even know why the Nazis are pivotal.
Because it
takes place in...
It takes place in 1930s Germany.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure, so I just did it. But, so sure, if you knew it, I would still think what they would do, just a guess, is that for a high school, would be that they would have Nazi-esque uniforms and not
the actual
Nazi
swastikas. Yeah.
And
I don't. But Cabaret is very like the whole thing takes place in. Well, it's a cabaret. It's a dance club.
Yes.
But then by the end of it, like, it all falls away and they're actually in a concentration camp and some of the prisoners have the pink triangle, which is why I say it's a little maybe more, like, thematically related than Oliver, which is kind of a random choice.
Yeah, but it's got that character name.
Yeah.
So.
But Cabaret, I believe, like, also has, like, an abortion in it.
Yeah, it's a pretty intense...
It's a pretty intense show.
But it makes sense with the character that we know of the drama teacher. She does not give a shit.
That's true.
Like, she's fucking hardcore and she does not give a shit. She's like, we're putting on Cabaret. And with a vice principal who apparently wields all the power in the school, who is as wannabe woke as their vice principal is, he'd be like, sure, put on Cabaret.
Do it. Get real Nazi armbands. Yeah. We'll put on Cabaret.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I thought that the characters felt more authentically teenaged in the movie than they did in the book. I thought the book did a pretty good job. But I think where a movie has an advantage there is that you can get actual teenagers to portray teenagers, whereas a book is always going to be someone who is probably older than a teenager trying to remember what it's like to be a teenager. So, you know, it was the little things, like their awkward joking at the Halloween party and, like, checking out the football players and going to get coffee and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And because the moment I didn't have in this movie that I recall, and I don't know, I didn't have, and that I have a lot when watching high school movies or especially ones that are, like, really clever or where the characters are really funny or clever, is that moment of, no high schoolers talk like this. Like the moment we had in A Great Show, Everything Sucks, where I was like, especially in the first few episodes, like, and these are freshmen in high school. Like, freshmen in high school do not talk like this. No. These people are talking like 30-year-old screenwriters who trying to remember what they think they talked like when they were in high school. Where everything's like way more clever than anybody is when they're 14 years old. Like nobody is that clever and witty all the time.
Yeah. And I also read, I think it was on the IMDb page, maybe, that the director would call cut, but keep the camera rolling. Yeah. And then use some of that, like, more organic footage where they're just interacting with each other.
That makes sense. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I bet he does that on Flash, too.
Probably.
He's had a long time working with young adults to figure out how to do this shit, so.
Simon gets himself into way more of a mess in the movie than he does in the book. He tells way more lies. Like, in the book, he doesn't tell Nick that... Well, he doesn't tell Nick, his friend, that Abby has another boyfriend. He doesn't lie to him and say that she's into Martin. He gets himself into like way more of a pickle in the movie.
Yeah.
I liked his parents in the movie more.
Yeah.
Book parents may have been a little more realistic. They were a little more generic.
Yeah.
So I did.
They dial up the
enjoy
quirkiness.
I did enjoy his movie parents. And my last thing for better in the movie, that cafeteria scene with the teacher. It's not realistic at all, but I lived for it.
Well, as a teacher, I can understand why you would.
Yeah.
Identify
and
with that
I
moment.
know, and I want to acknowledge that the sassy black woman trope is all played out.
Yeah, that's true.
But man, have there been some asshats I've wanted to say that to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
That right, yeah. No, I had a feeling. To me, it felt, I was like, yeah, it's funny, and it's, I had my issues that we talked about earlier. I hadn't considered the idea that, she is definitely a little tropey.
Yeah.
In a weird way that, Well. So that's it for Better in the Movie. Let's get on to a few other random little things, and then we'll wrap this up with our final verdict, Katie's final verdict. But first, let's hit some general discussion. This is one of the other problems I had, and I say one of the other problems. It's just a little thing that felt a little weird. And it ties into the whole everything being too happy and too idealistic and a little too saccharine and a little too easy. Is that Simon, like one of his opening monologue or whatever, he's like, I'm just like you. Mm-hmm. He says that, and he says that numerous times throughout the movie. And I get why they're saying that. I get, what the message you're trying to get across is like, look, gay people are just people. There's normal people. They're just like you. Blah, blah, blah. But he's also super rich. His family is super wealthy. And it just felt a little, he's like, kids watching this movie.
You're really on a classist bent.
I can't help but when somebody says, I'm just like you, I live in this giant 2-story, 10-bedroomed mansion I say mansion, it's not a mansion, but it is a fucking huge house.
Yeah.
Like a really big, nice house in a really nice neighborhood, and they go to a really fancy high school. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're just like some... of us. Yeah. Not all of us.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up in a house like that, and I grew up relative to a lot of other people, I grew up very privileged in the sense of, we were middle class, but like, this is a little thing. It was just one of those things I was like, well, sure, just like us, but like rich. So, I don't know. It's not that you can't tell that story with that character being wealthy. I think you can. I think they did a great job of it. I love the film, and I thought it still hits all the messages you want to. It was just that one little line, kind of, for some reason, just... It was the context of when it happened and how he said, I'm just like you, and then it cuts to him wandering through his 9-bedroom house. And I was like, I was like, all right. But yeah, I just thought it was funny more than anything. I didn't get why they put the story where they did and in the context they did, and it makes sense. So I don't have a problem with it, and
well, actually, I also...
We need to seize the means of production! That's what I'm saying. No, I'm just joking.
I also wanted to bring up that opening monologue because I thought it felt kind of weird and inorganic.
Yeah.
Mostly because, like, he introduces all of his friends, and then they introduced everyone again through footage, like, immediately after, when he's picking them all up from their houses, and I'm like, could we not have at least combined...
Streamline that a little bit?
Yeah. I don't know, it was weird.
No, that makes sense.
But that was like, the only thing... like, style-wise, that I thought was weird, because otherwise I really enjoyed the style of this movie.
Yeah.
Like, the way that things transitioned, and the way that, like, the text would pop up on the screen, and they, like, kind of showed how they were communicating with each other.
Yeah, I thought everything about how they handled all of that was really good. I thought, pacing-wise, it's great. It's just a well-crafted movie. Like, it's streamlined, the pacing is spot on. Maybe the end... was a little off, but in general, pacing was pretty much spot on. Shot perfectly for a movie like this. It didn't you know, in contrast to something like A Wrinkle of Time where you just watch, I never felt lost in any spaces. And again, it's a very different movie, but it was shot appropriately. Now, see, Greg Berlanti has about as much experience shooting this type of story as anybody does. Mm-hmm. So teenage dramas are sort of teenage relationship dramas are sort of like a thing he's done forever. So he kind of knows how to shoot
and correct me if I'm wrong, but he's gay, right?
Yeah, and as one of the reasons I think I read that he was so into this story was that he was like closeted through high school, and he sort of identified a lot with the story.
Because Hollywood is often not super good at this, and I really appreciate that they at least got a gay director.
Finding somebody who's lived the experience to tell a story about that experience, makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that it was a smart choice. Yeah, because it's not always.
And Hollywood has a tendency to not be super great at that.
No, and they're getting better at it. Yeah, definitely getting better at it. It's and especially for this, it's because it's so pivotal to the story. You kind of have to. Like, there's some stories that you can do where if it's not depending on what the story is, it doesn't necessarily matter. Mm-hmm. But for something like this. Again, you could probably find a straight person to tell this story and still have it be good, but it definitely makes sense. It's just you're going to get a better story, I gotta imagine, when somebody knows and can identify so thoroughly with the main themes and elements of the story and has been there, done that to some extent. One of the things I thought was really interesting, and this is sort of in contrast to Ready Player One a little bit, in a sense of so in Ready Player One, so one of the ultimate messages, kind of to some extent, was the online world's fine, but it's not real life, and real things don't happen there. And we need to, at least the movie version, to some extent. And it wasn't the overall, but like part of it, we need to unplug from the internet. And now, this one obviously is so wildly different in every way. But one thing it did is that I think it's a message that is really important in our current age, is that the internet is real life.
Yeah.
You don't see, because I think a problem with a lot of online interaction is people don't see it as real life,
right? And
it's really easy to be really awful. And another element is the relationship that Bram and Simon form just through email. Mm-hmm. The movie doesn't try to cheapen that at all and say that isn't somehow worthwhile or doesn't mean it, in the same way. Which there is some reality, or there is some truth to the fact that just having a relationship online in certain circumstances and certain situations isn't necessarily the best or most healthy thing always. But at the same time, online relationships are very real, and and then the connection you form with people has repercussions, and the things you say on the internet have repercussions, and there's such a strong mentality among some people, generally older than probably the target audience of this.
Yes.
I think the target audience understands, but I don't know that the internet is real. Is that, just going on Twitter and saying whatever the fuck you want and be like, well, it's on the internet, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't fucking, like, just, saying whatever the fuck dumb shit you want to say, or like mean shit you want to say on the internet, and be like, well, it's just fucking lols, just trolling, like whatever. And that's not how it should works. Like, there's other people reading it, and it's like the internet is just the real life. Like,
yeah, no, I think it's a good message, and I think it is also a good acknowledgement of the fact that, because like the target audience for this is Gen Z.
Yeah.
And Gen Z, even more so than us millennials, have been digital natives for all of their lives.
Yeah, they'd have we knew a world without it. They don't.
This is just real life for them, and I think this film did a good job of acknowledging that.
Yeah, and I think even then, I think, I don't know, but I would guess that even some of that generation of Gen Z or whatever still don't, even though it's the only thing they've known, they still don't necessarily see it. And maybe they do. I don't know. I
think they do more than
well, definitely more than anybody else. I'm not arguing that. I just wonder if maybe even still they still think that maybe saying something online or posting something on on a post secret site doesn't have the same impact, or they don't, because it definitely allows you to post and say things a lot of people wouldn't say in real life.
Yeah.
And so, which is a good and a bad thing at times, but. Anyways, I just thought that was interesting. I thought that sort of reiterating the idea, yes, the internet is real. Like, this is real life. It's not some fake imaginary thing that happens and then the rest of the world, like, keeps going on by itself. Like, this shit affects
it
real
has
people's real lives.
Real world repercussions.
Yeah. And I enjoyed that about it, so. I had one other note. It was just a brief note about the scene where he comes out to Abby. Definitely teared up during that scene. I thought that was really well acted and just good.
Yeah, and it's funny. I've seen a lot of people talking about that online of like that's like a thing coming out in cars.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's like a thing apparently.
I could see that. Yeah, it makes sense because it's one. It probably feels safe. It's a place you are usually with another person that's not. It's nobody else listening. Even if you're in your bedroom at home, your parents could be on the other side of the door. You know what I mean? Like, and there's nobody else that's going to be able to hear whatever conversation you're having in a car, generally speaking. So I could see why that would be just even subconsciously just a place that would.
And you have something to focus on.
Yeah,
because you're driving or being a passenger, or the other person has something to focus on.
Yeah, because in the context of the movie, they pull over and
just
they're parked,
you. Right.
But yes.
And I guess it doesn't work quite as well in the context of the movie because they do pull over.
Yeah.
But you're driving, you're not forced to look someone in the eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. But even without being actively driving, that still all kind of applies because you still act similar way in a car. When you're sitting in a car and you're having a conversation, generally, if you're both in the front seat, you're still going to be looking.
Right.
It makes sense and is normal for you to be looking out the window and not at the other person. So doesn't feel as weird if you're not like if we're sitting and having a conversation face to face in a room, it's weird if a little more weird if the person turns and is staring somewhere else. But if you're in a car, even if it's pulled over, they're looking out the window. That's not.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Yeah. It feels more
And
natural.
I've read that as like random parenting advice as well, that like if you need to have a serious conversation with your kid, to take them for a drive.
Makes a lot of sense.
Because it's like more conducive to being open about what's going on.
Huh. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So. And it's a really well done scene, really well acted. And it got to me. and again, having never experienced even anything like that, I can only imagine if you had lived an experience like that. Like, I've never had anybody come out to me, I've never come out to anybody. So but if you had been on either end of that, I feel like it would definitely even more potentially could affect you even more. So
now, are you ready for your sentence?
Sentence? Oh, but there must be a verdict first.
Sentence first, verdict afterward.
This one was tough for me.
Yeah, I could tell because you really liked the movie.
I really liked the movie, and I also really liked the book. Both of them are more than worth your time, in my opinion. I'm going to have to give it to the movie.
Nice.
Because I think that this particular story really benefited from a visual medium. And I think it benefited from having actual teenagers. So those are my reasons.
There's a lot of, just to real quick to tack on, to expand on that a little, I think there's a lot of subtlety in a movie that is so dependent on the emotional heft and weight of a conversation. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, that's ultimately what coming out comes down to, is a conversation. In the context of this movie, at least, because emotional conversations, there's so much subtlety in the way, in when you're looking at a person, and everything they do, and the way their body language and how they're speaking and the words they choose, being able to see it, and can add a lot to the emotional. Like, I don't know if I've ever cried reading a book passage. I'm sure maybe, but it's tough because one, you don't have music going, you don't have a score going, you don't have the actual one-on-one sort of feeling of emotional connection with an actual person.
And that kind of emotional connection that you get through conversations, it's possible to write a really beautiful, well-crafted conversation. But then the other problem with that is that if you want your characters to convey emotion, you have to write that.
Yeah, you have to write that out.
Whereas with the movie, you can just see it on
You
their
see it.
faces.
Exactly.
And you don't have to disrupt the flow of what they're saying and the messages that they're trying to convey to say, so-and-so looked down at the floor.
Down, yeah. Tears welling in the corners of their eyes. Yeah, like that sort of stuff. Yeah. I agree. And that's why I think something like that definitely works really well in film. And it did. And it was utterly reliant on great performances, and they got them from everybody.
Yes.
So they not lucked out. They cast the right people and got the right director, that sort of thing. But yeah, cool. Movie's better, but book's really good too. On our next episode, Katie, is it a prequel or are we back? Are we doing 4 in a row?
No, we are back on schedule next week. We'll have a prequel episode, and then 2 weeks from next week, we'll have another regular episode, and we are doing Stand By Me.
Oh, shit.
/ Stephen King's The Body.
That's right, it's called The Body in the novel. Or it's a short story? Or
It's a novella.
Okay. Have you seen Stand By Me?
Once.
I've seen it
long time ago. I remember like nothing about it.
Yeah.
Except that I used to get it confused with The Sandlot.
The Sandlot, yeah. I knew you were going to say that because the covers, I think, are similar.
They're kind of similar, and it's kind of a similar coming-of-age group of boys.
Very different turns.
And I think there's a character who wears, like, the stereotypical nerd glasses in both movies.
Yeah, and it's Corey Haim and, I think, right? I think it's, Corey, the other one. One of the Coreys, Feldman, I believe, in Stand By Me, and then, it's a different kid, and then one of them has a baseball hat. Like, I can see why you get that way. I've seen Stand By Me once. It's been a while. Not like forever ago, but like maybe 3 or 4 years.
I was in my early teens, I think. So it's been a while. I've seen The Sandlot much more because my little brother was obsessed with it.
It's a great movie.
It's a good movie. Yes, I've seen it a lot. Thanks, Billy.
But yeah, so cool. I'm excited to watch it again because I don't remember a lot about it. I must have watched it late and I was like dozing off, but I remember watching it and enjoying it. Just don't remember everything about it. But
yeah, I'm interested because the movie is considered a classic, and I think a lot of people don't know the book.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. So that's 2 weeks from now. That'll be Stand By Me. We'll preview it next week. I thought another fun thing we could do, and you can tell me, 1, you can tell me if you like this. 2, people can tell me if they think this would be interesting. And it might not be, but it might be. I don't know. We throw around some terms here and there, not a ton and not too crazy, and maybe a lot of I don't want to be patronizing and assume our audience doesn't always know necessarily what we mean, but even if they know what the words mean, it might be interesting for us to explain what we mean when we use those. And I mean words like, especially because there's a lot of misconception about some of these words mean. Words like problematic and words like, hold on, I had a list. I was starting a list.
Right, no, problematic, because I always feel like I have to couch problematic before I say it.
But things like, words like problematic, tone-deaf, gatekeeping, which that was more so specifically for Ready Player One, but I think in general, and we can come up with some more, but I thought that might be interesting. Sort of our more progressive words that make some people really angry when you use them.
Right. Well, I mean, that might be interesting to do in our prequel episodes as like a precursor to what we might discuss in the following episode, because we could also do like industry terms. Yeah. Because we toss those around sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, that, I don't know. I thought that was something that might be interesting. And maybe it would make more sense to do it week to week with something we know we're going to discuss, like gatekeeping. I'm not going to talk. That's not going to come up a lot in most things, but for Ready Player One, it was very relevant, and I mentioned it a handful of times. I don't know how many people even know what that is. Again, I don't want to be patronizing and say people don't, but the way we mean it and the way we talk about it, and certain other words like that, like I said, like problematic, all that kind of stuff, and sort of to steal a slogan from a failed political campaign, set the record straight on what some of those, at least when we use those words, what that means and what they don't mean necessarily. And I thought that might be interesting. Because like I said, we throw them around and we don't even, I was like, I don't know if everybody, because we watch a lot of like video essays and online critical analysis and feminist analysis. Like that's the shit we really enjoy watching and listening to and reading.
We're into it.
Yeah, it's like a thing. We sit up on the weekends and we watch YouTube people talk about feminist critical analysis of Michael Bay films. Like that's the people we are. So I don't know if everybody is those people. Like, I have a feeling most people aren't those people, or at least some. I'm sure a fair number of the people who will enjoy and listen to our podcast would be the people who would do that, or at least to some extent. But that being said.
So let us know if you would be interested in short, fun vocabulary lessons.
Yes. And I think it would just be a fun discussion in general. And like you said, it might even make more sense to do it a bit by bit, and have them be more related to the thing coming up and what we think may be relevant to that.
To throw out a teacher term, that's called scaffolding.
Well, there you go. I didn't know that.
When you introduce knowledge and then you build on it, that's called scaffolding.
And it could also be cool, like you said, I think industry terms and even technical terms from a filmmaking standpoint, to kind of, and I don't throw out a lot of film lingo just because, one, I went to film school technically, as I like to say, but I'm not like the world's most versed film scholar by any stretch. But there are certain things here and there where it's important to know those kind of things for analyzing media, and I think the same can be said for literature, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that would be a fun prequel thing. So if you like that idea, let us know. If not, if you don't want like you said, a vocabulary lesson, then let us know that way too. But we're going to do it anyway, so...
We'll make it super fun.
It'll be super fun, yeah. All right, like I said, that's going to do it, or that is it for this episode of This Film Is Lit. Come back next week for the prequel episode to Stand By Me and a vocabulary lesson. Till then, keep watching books. Keep watching movies, keep reading books, and keep being awesome.
I guess you could also watch the books.
You could.
Nothing's stopping you.
You're not going to do anything, but you could. You're just going to sit there.